call the board on
The
Sunday.
regular meeting of the Academic Community Schools Board of Education, Monday, February 27th, 7 p.m. Please rise for the pledge of allegiance and hold our silence.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
William Reed.
Here.
Bill Clark.
Here.
James Glenn.
Here.
Nicole Everett. Here. John Baker. Here. Jim Spencer. Here. John Heiser.
All right, thank you. And digging in here, no recognitions or presentations tonight, which brings us to consent agenda items. Would anyone like to make a motion?
I make a motion that the Board of Education approves all consent agenda items, including agenda minutes, personnel items, treasurer's reports, bills as listed items A through C. Support.
Moved and supported. Any questions, comments? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes. Information items. First up is section 98B goal progress.
Yeah, so if you recall, section 98B is back from first part of COVID when we had to report that the idea was in order to be fully funded for your online students that you had to keep progress throughout the year. So a test in the fall, a test in the winter, and if we were looking at the end of the year and reported out to the board. We gave NWA anyway at those times, so it wasn't really anything different for us. The only difference is now the online learning is kind of waived and all this type of stuff, but then you got to take this 98B out of the legislation. So until they tell us different, we'll continue to follow the guidelines. It's nothing different than, like I said, what we've been doing. We've always done that year progress check, which is exactly what we're doing now. Unless we hear different, we'll report to you in June on that. So scores are in there. Progress was pretty good. When you look overall, reading the math so long really got to keep up with the new curriculum. Really trying to keep my eye on. Teachers seem to be getting more comfortable teaching of that at least. So I think that we'll see where we can see the benefits of that as well. Of course, we'll be able to do stuff this year. So.
Nothing stands out as far as performance or trends or
Nothing that, I mean, when we were, our progress has improved, and I think that has to do with the fact that, really, it's just everybody's back now. We only have probably, I think district-wide, we probably have 2 hands can name how many kids that we have that are happy to have everyone back. The schools seem to be sure. And I think we're starting to also see us catching up a little bit from all learning loss through that time. It appears, and we knew it would be more than just a one-year kind of thing. It was going to take a while to get kids back at pace. I think the realistic or the optimistic part of that was that, we missed basically a year and a year and a half we'd be caught up. Well, it really doesn't work that way. It's not really catching up. We're still learning at that time. So, I think I'm very comfortable with the direction we're in. It's just not going to be a good year for this. It's going to take a couple years to get started.
Up next is the MASB board election. We have 2 candidates, James Johnson and Richard Hill. We need to come to a consensus on which one. I think we get to vote for one.
Yes.
And then we can get that submitted by Wednesday is the deadline. So given that any.
This Johnson guy must really want it, because I was my email. Here you go, man.
And to be honest with you, usually I'm kind of familiar with one. I don't know any of the ones that are really, I don't know really any background on either.
James Johnson is the incumbent, right?
Correct.
Yes.
Yeah. Serves as vice president, I believe.
I think he's been on about as long as I've been on the board. I think he's been the district.
Yeah.
You should put it in.
Yeah.
I didn't think anybody would, I don't think there's any surprise or any kind of anything to be wary of if either one of them are there, so.
I mean, I guess my 2 cents, not that I vote on this one, my 2 cents would be, MASB, I think, has been pretty solid, in terms of what they offer and the things that they do for districts and the offerings that they give you guys. If you got an incumbent in there, obviously, maybe the not broke, don't fix it. I don't see any area where they're really lacking. They seem very good about updates. They seem very good about reforming districts when there's changes to legislation. So, just my 2 cents.
Well, none of them, typically none of them, over the years, typically none of them have been, you know, they wanna, you know, build a better mousetrap or reinvent the wheel, so, you know, it's. Anybody that sends out that much stuff, spends that much time.
At least you know he's
Well,
That's okay, that's all right with me.
My take was, this dude's pretty high energy, and then I read his letter, and the first thing like, I'm very energetic.
Nailed it.
Yeah. He's a robotics coach, so for me, that's so street cred.
Right.
So how do we do this? Do we vote on it?
We don't need to vote, I mean, if we're all aligned with James Johnson. Janet, you got it, okay. Awesome. Wait, Mr. Latos?
Yep.
Administrative reports.
Yeah, administrative reports, so I just, with not knowing what things are gonna look like later this afternoon, all 3 of our principals have quite a drive in and out. I told them to go home after the kids left to make sure that they got themselves home safe, so, I have a couple items that I'll go through in the SUPS report, just, that they passed along. Right, when I think it's to me that, oh no, board reports, right?
Yeah, you're right, board reports.
Nice shirts, huh?
Yeah.
Look good.
And sure,
Yeah.
spoiled here.
Okay.
Yep.
Had to make sure it wasn't, you know, defective or anything, so, you know.
I've got 2. First is, as promised last meeting, I have a sign-in sheet for interactions with the student council. So drop by, if you want to grab a month. I did March through January, thinking to get through this calendar year. And into the next year, we can do it again after the organization meeting.
What are the expectations with that?
So,
Want us to report out what they talked about? Like, what-
yeah, that's
Here's what I did. So when I went, I know most of those kids. So when I went, I went in there and I said, you know, I introduced myself, who I was, what I do, how long I've been around, what my job and the other stuff was in retirement. And most of them knew, if not at least 2 of them, some of them, all 5 of my foreign exchange kids. I blasted through that as fast as I could and just opened it up to any that anybody had, because I find that those kind of situations, not just with students, but with groups of people in general, they don't want to hear me blather on about something that they probably don't really give a damn about. And so if I can get to give them the bullet points of why I'm there real fast and open it up to questions and answers, then they're asking the questions about stuff that does mean something to them that I may not have talked about when I was doing all my talking. So I approached it that way, and Mrs. Landrum was really fun. She said, you know, they were coming up with an idea for one of the spirit days, you know, and asked me, you know, what did I think, you know, and I mentioned one, and it was one that they had done the last time, so, you know, my idea got 0 votes. You know, I made sure to thank everybody for that. I mean, it was fun. It's light. It's very casual, very informal. They want to get in. They want to have their meeting, do their stuff, and get out. And they run a pretty efficient meeting. So.
Well, I think what you'll find is, you know, your guys' presence at that meeting, if they do have some things, because there'll be some times when they're gonna have some questions, or they're gonna want something, or, you know, and I think that is a good avenue, a good setting for them to bring it up to you, because you could either give them guidance on how that will, you know, like, for example, if they wanted to do a spin-off club, I don't know. But they would at least be able to ask you, you know, how that process works or whatever the case is. And, I mean, there might be weeks where you're just a spectator, you know.
Pretty much,
That's
I
what
pretty
I'm-
much was, and I explained to them, I'm here to answer any questions you might have,
Yep.
or go take the information back and get the answers to questions you might have, or, you know, anything you need to know, you know, that's why I'm here, put the boots to me while you got
Yeah.
me down, you know.
And we're not really there to take over the meeting, or we don't
No,
want to
I just
perceive it
don't
that
know,
way either,
just a
right?
guess, I was sitting over off to the side, and, yeah.
So you're not expecting like, since Andy already introduced, talked about school board, so we don't have to do that?
I don't
next
think
month?
so. My thought was, if it becomes a regular pattern where we're there, we can, if there's something that is of interest from the board meeting that we think we want to share with them, then we can, you know, here's an update from the board that we thought you'd be interested in, or maybe if there isn't, then you're just listening, or that, you know, any questions or feedback, you can listen and.
Well, I think, and they might, knowing if it's gonna be a consistent thing where we have someone there every month, they might start to think of
Right.
things like, well, why, you know, they might ask themselves or the teachers, well, why does this happen? How
Right.
does this happen? And maybe knowing that you guys will
And
be
each
there
can
monthly.
say, hey, you know what, we got somebody coming in at the next meeting, now, speaking of the meeting, so I went to the January one, and they didn't have one in February, so, you know,
Yeah.
so, if they don't have anything hot, heavy going on, I guess, there
Yep.
might not even be one, and, I know a couple of the students that, they text me and let me know that, you know, hey, when's there gonna be a meeting? And they're like, oh, I'll text you and let you know, and I get like 2 or 3 of them, they'll send me a text and let me know, but, yeah.
How long was it? Like 20 minutes, 30 minutes, 40?
Half hour, 40 minutes, it
Yeah.
wasn't very long, yeah.
After school.
Because they're coming in right after school,
so.
and then
Yeah.
some of them have practice and stuff,
Yeah.
like at little 3:30, so they don't have a lot of time to, you know, mess around.
Yeah, she usually keeps them pretty,
And she
online
keeps them
and
on
gets
track
them,
with,
yep.
you know, helping them move it along, but they did a really good job moving it along, I have to say, I was impressed.
Yeah.
You know.
And in knowing, just, I detected that it was kind of a little bit laissez-faire, they were flexible as they were doing it, so when we have the names, I'll share it with Michelle and just ask that when they lock in on a date, right, email the board member, and if a meeting falls through or doesn't, or you can't be there, not the end of the world, but.
Well, you know, and the
Try.
thing might be to do is rather than have the name of a month down there, just
Just a
have
name.
The
a
order.
list of people, and, you know, and that's the next one, you know, and then, well, if something happens and that person can't go, then you skip them and go to the next one, or
I'd prefer to
whatever.
have it scheduled, because I'll have to take time off of work to do
Yeah,
it. So I'll need to know what day, what month.
Well, you would know if you were next up, and we'd be able to find out when their meetings are.
Yeah, but if then somebody couldn't go, and you're saying then somebody got moved up, then
Well, then they'd skip you too.
well, I prefer not to get skipped, so I could just schedule a meeting and then I could go.
Just saying.
yeah, we'll start with the list here and then work through it and see.
So-
I mean, they are pretty flexible, so that will be challenging for some of us, but we'll go. And then the second one I had is for new members. I got a note, I call it a pep talk, just joking, but Cindy from our Board of Distinction for all board members being certified expires in July, I guess.
Yeah, 3 months.
You got
Couple
3
meetings
months.
to get
Yeah, it's, she said we have
That was fun.
June 30th. So, not the end of the world, but she was just letting me know that in 6 months. So after that, yeah, yeah,
You don't have to do it.
yeah, yeah.
But
When
that's
is
kind
the
of a
next-
cool thing, I mean, there's what, 600 school districts in the state, and only 6 of them got it last year, and we were one of them. Oh,
Yeah.
So that's a pretty cool club
Yeah.
to be in,
Yep,
you
yep,
know,
yep.
I mean, if you're gonna be in something.
The next thing, and that's, you could get probably all of them, go to the conference in October.
Yeah.
There's, I
Maybe
think there's
you won't.
usually one in April,
Is there one in April?
like a virtual, so I took the strategic planning.
They're doing a lot of them online, they started doing that a couple
really nice letter, and right away I was like, well, thanks for the heads up. And she wrote back, like, thank you for being so kind. This is my first email I've sent out to board presidents about this, and I don't want to bug. I was like,
Stop by.
I said, I tell you what, I appreciate it, and it is timely. I'll bring it up at our board meeting tonight. All right, that was all. Anyone else, clerk report? Okay, no.
Just a couple things, and one of them's a little, just something that came up at the, and I plan to talk to soon. So with the stuff that happened at Michigan State and the stuff that continues to happen with some of the gun violence, as I'm sure you watch, there's a whole bunch of, stuff coming through the legislature. You know, it's one of these things where something's gonna get talked about and passed through or not passed through and whatever. So knowing that organization's pretty powerful, there's been several people reaching out to Bob McCann, who's our executive director, and asking where they thought K-12 stood on this. And so, no, Clare County is a pretty conservative area. He contacted me and we talked for a while, and he just said, you know, kind of want to get a feel for what you think would be the, some of these issues. And I said, you know, and I had talked to him a couple weeks ago, so there wasn't a real clarity on it, exactly what type of legislation is going to it's still really not very clear. I mean, there's some ideas of what might be brought to the group, but I don't think there's anything set in stone yet. And so my response was that I would feel out kind of my board, and then I would also talk a little bit with our county. But my initial response was, I think we would support things that, as they pertain to student safety in schools. But to me, there's some issues that they're asking us to try to pool schools in that we're really not. I don't think it's our decision to make. And I said, so I think any of us could agree that yes, if there's something that's gonna, you know, inherently make our kids safer and make people feel better about going to school and that type of stuff, we would be in support of that. And I don't know if I thought I tried to put it to where, but let the people that are supposed to do that job and make those decisions, make those decisions.
To me, like, the Second Amendment is not the business of the schools.
Right, yeah. You know, I said, you know, again, they were really trying to feel how much support, or, you know, could they put a name, and I really was happy that Bob contacted me on it, because he said, I don't want to speak as K-12 without talking to one of the counties that it involves. And I said, yeah, well, I told him I'd give him a little bit better answer on it, but really it was one that I just kind of felt that we're always going to do things in, you know, support of having our kids safe. And we kind of ended there, so that was my response. But I wanted you guys to know that
There's
was.
already been a lot of measures within schools.
Yep.
To keep them safe. I mean, it's something that's ongoing.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, when I look through it, I think that there's some of the stuff that they're asking about, you know, locking up guns safely and these types of things, I think people would probably generally agree with. I don't know, but I just kind of left it as, if there's something that you want us to weigh in as it pertains to schools,
Yeah.
we'd probably be in support of it.
It should be school involved.
Yep.
not,
Right, I'm not going, yeah,
personal.
that's
No.
not our job, right?
Right,
Yeah. Pass you out a FAQ, for the non-homestead, and this is kind of meant to be just, and this won't look like this, we'll dial it up and make it look nice a little bit. My thought is I'll put this on the website, I'll put it on our Facebook page, and it's kind of gonna be, in my eyes, kind of a live document. If I start getting a lot of the same questions, we can add to this document. But to me, this was, what the goal of this was, it seems like no matter how much you define non-homestead, no matter how much you talk about it, people still have a hard time getting exactly what it is. So what I tried to do was write this from a very you know, this is a very elementary version of it, broken down about, I guess, about as easy as I could make it to understand. And I still don't know that everybody's gonna fully get it, but I think this would answer a lot of questions that people have. In the past, these were kind of the ones that I seem to get the most of. So certainly, if there's some things on there when you read through it, if there's things you think we should add, if there's things that you think aren't real clear, I sent it to Andy, because he's kind of been down this road to put a set eyes on, and then I sent it along to Phil as well, just to make sure that I'm not explaining at a level that's, I don't know, I want it to be a user-friendly document. I want it to be something that people are gonna look at and go, I still don't understand. And so this will be out there, and then, the pamphlet form, which I plan to send to all of our parents in the district, and it'll go home with the kids, and we'll have some stacks for the district and stacks for the schools and that kind of stuff. But it'll have a lot of these questions in there, and then maybe just a couple other fast facts. And really what I'm trying to get across again is what happens if this, what it is and what happens if it doesn't pass.
Right.
Because that's really what people want to know.
Yep.
You know, and so hopefully this gives at least, like I said, if there's something on there, feel free to, or something you're thinking, you know, I'm getting asked this a lot, maybe you add it to it. This could be a live document, and we can update it as needed, so just
When was
wanted.
the last time that this millage saw? When
That-
was it, yeah.
21, no, 19.
19.
19.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
thought we talked about
I
that.
thought we could say, yeah, that this is from 2019,
Yep.
so it's not any other millage that they want to.
Right, right. And so, like I said, and my plan is just strategically, the pamphlets, I think I'm gonna try to get out, like, so for, you know, May 2nd, I'm thinking first week of April. Not too early where it goes in the garbage can and
Yeah.
people forget about it, but close enough to where people could kind of look at it, and if they have other questions, they could ask. And if you ever get asked anything as board members that you're not comfortable, obviously, send them to me, and I'll be more than happy to ask.
I'm starting to think that's probably gonna be the only thing on the ballot. I got my, letter from the township saying, do you wanna absentee ballot for this election? Cause I'm a subscriber and stuff, so, and then all it says is special school board, special school election, so nothing about the college or anything else.
I think there was, did you look at that ballot that Cindy sent across? Was there something, there was something else on there, I think, too.
I don't think for this area though.
No, maybe not for this area, it might not have been, yeah, that's probably true. Yeah, so, it very well might be. So like I said, let me know on this if you wanna add anything, or if there's something that I'm missing, let me know. Within the next couple months, and it'll probably come to you in April, Evan and I have sat down, started to look at summer projects. We obviously know that Millside, with the $1.3 million approval from last month that you had, is obviously gonna be our bulk of our projects this year, the heating and cooling over there. But we do have some other projects that we're looking at. Top coating the parking lots over at Millside and Algonquin. Drinking stations, getting rid of the drinking fountains, putting in the water bottle system district-wide. That's another one that's gonna come to you. And signs for Millside and Point Trumbull, yes.
Oh, the stop signs that are fading?
No, the,
No, the electric
well, we'll
light.
paint
Oh,
those too, yeah,
done.
we know we gotta paint the stop sign out here, the silver one.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, signs for the front of the building, they're both pretty, beat up.
Both sides is original to the building,
Yeah.
1993, so.
Yeah.
Anything from,
think we
the
got our money's
auditorium
worth
for
out of it.
Algonquin?
Yeah.
Auditorium, we've already taken it.
The sounds, no?
Yeah, and we've already taken action on that, we're just waiting for them to come and do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it hasn't been started
But
yet.
nobody, you haven't, no movement yet, like from contractors?
They're waiting for amplifiers, they're due in August.
Okay. Oof.
And that's really the fire.
Okay.
Yep. So I'm glad you brought that, because in addition, we also have, we got some projects in waiting, some door stuff that we're doing security-wise. Millside's playground is still due this year, so I mean, we've got a few things that we've taken action on. It's kind of, forgotten but not forgotten.
Right.
So those are things that we're doing, and then this will be in addition to, so hopefully we, obviously the big one for us is the heating and cooling one, because that's a
Yeah.
big project there, so.
Do you have a sticky note somewhere for that, the home side bleachers at the football field? Is that like next year or year after? What are you thinking?
Well, so we started just initially looking after we had talked, and they're probably, this is just a guess, but you're probably talking $500,000 on the low end maybe. And so, it'll be probably a priority between that and doing this parking lot, which was slated for the following summer. The difference is like where we're just getting the top coat over at Millside and Algonquin, this is a rip down, tear out. So this is probably $1 million project, again, on the low end over here, so, whatever. But yes, that's another one, Phil, that's right up there with priorities. We could use some help on that, so. So that's it, summer projects. Other little things that our maintenance guys will be doing, but those are the big things that you guys will be seeing. Like I said, probably action items, I'm hoping in April. We'll put them out to bid soon. Couple nice notes, I'm sure that many of you are aware, but wrestlers went and wrestled past weekend at States. They, Friday night, won a close one to get to the semifinals Saturday morning, and Saturday morning lost fairly close one to the team that went on to the finals in Whitehall, and they got beat in about 50 minutes by Dundee. So it was kind of, that was the fate that I think everyone kind of knew was going to happen. But just, fantastic year for Brian. He's got 11 kids going next week or this weekend to compete at individual states. When they wrap all that up, we'll obviously bring them in here to honor and recognize that group. Quiz Bowl was out at Grand Ledge this past weekend and finished second out of 15 schools in the small school division. So that was it's a pretty cool deal too. It was nice, and JV actually competed up there and did pretty well too. So again, we'll bring them in as well to recognize that group. I think that would be cool.
Did they earn a varsity letter for Quiz Bowl?
I'm sorry?
Did they earn a varsity letter for Quiz Bowl? I just seen Anchor Bay one time, they had a Quiz Bowl varsity letter, and I thought.
I
Varsity
don't,
varsity letter?
to be 100%,
No.
they don't, I
don't think
don't know
so.
the answer to that, okay.
Maybe you get a pin or a patch or something. I don't know, give you the varsity.
I don't know.
I don't know, I've been hearing that people do varsity jackets different now than like when we were in high school.
Right.
And so if it was an interest of yours, then people are just automatically buying patches and putting them,
Got it.
as opposed to being like
Awarded them.
varsitied. Right.
Awarded
So they
it.
might get a varsity letter for football or, robotics or whatever, but your other interests,
Oh, they just-
typically you just kind of,
I had seen one time that Anchor Bay, somebody at Anchor Bay went on,
Yeah.
they had a Quiz Bowl
Huh.
varsity
Yeah.
letter. I thought, oh,
That
that's
was
kind of
neat.
neat. Do we have
Yeah.
a varsity letter? So,
Yeah.
Not that I'm saying we should or need
No,
one,
I-
but I was
Yeah.
just wondering.
Yep.
There's some students that that's all they do, so that
Right.
would be
Mhm.
nice.
That makes
They have a
sense.
letter.
Yep.
Anyway, sorry.
And then very last, just keeping you as always up to date on the budget. For those of you that were at St. Clair School Board, heard a little bit about what the budget priorities are and kind of what the outlook is. And it's, what I would call pretty favorable for the upcoming year education. Talked with K-12 people today. They are still hell-bent on getting this thing done before Memorial Day, and that would be the earliest we've had it done in a whole long time. And that's just, I can't tell you how much easier that is when it comes to,
You can take a vacation this summer.
yeah, well, just, I mean,
Yeah, really.
it's awful hard to plan for a school year when you're going into the school year and you still don't know what money you have, and so, no, they seem, I think both chambers are pretty close, even if you look at their initial proposals. I don't think it'll look a whole lot different than the governor's, so, hopefully this all goes through. I've even heard some rumors that they were talking about doing a 2-year budget, which I never recall them ever doing.
I've never heard of that.
I haven't either. I don't know that that's gonna be the case, and to be honest with you, maybe it shouldn't be, because things are just so fluid right now, you know, you don't wanna see, you end up getting a 2-year budget, and then they come back and cut you the following year. It doesn't, you know, make a whole bunch of sense, so. But what I'm hearing are pretty, you know, some pretty good things. They're gonna continue to support the mental health stuff, they're gonna continue to support the school safety stuff, both in supplemental budgets too, which means it doesn't exhaust our, you know, doesn't exhaust our general fund, which is helpful. And then they're talking about a pretty good you know, the number I'm hearing is $450 per student to the general fund, so, you know, long way to go yet before those things are confirmed, but it's,
She was talking about almost doubling the increase in mental health.
yeah, well, interesting enough, so this was good news that, so if you remember 31-0, which was what we were able to hire our counselor, social worker, and nurse with. And we took a chance and we ended up getting all 3 of them. And so remember that first year of that grant was 100% paid, and then down to 66%, then down to 33%, and then the 4th year they wouldn't pay anything. So this year, where we're down to 66%, a different grant came out that I wrote for, which was 31AA, and it's for basically the same thing. Well, we were granted 31AA with enough money in that budget to pay for the shortfall through the 31O. So basically, again, we're into this year and maybe even into next year where those people will be zero cost to the district, so. I mean, that's what we asked when we went, you know, when we went and talked to, even when we were in DC and when we went and talked to the, you know, our leaders in Michigan, it was the same thing. It's like, you know, it's great you guys got us that first step, but don't pull the rug on us, you know, we need it.
She brought up after you had gone.
Yep.
At the meeting, she had brought up how the K-12 Alliance is actually the Michigan, you know, it's become a force.
Yeah.
So what
Yeah.
you guys are doing is working.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. And then we got the, one of the neat things is this past 2 months ago, we had added Monroe County. So, you know, you don't want to get, it's a weird thing because you don't want to get, there's strength in numbers, but you don't want to get too big because then you just become MASA all over again, and it's, you know, and so, but Monroe County brings their own set of advantages too, including one of the legislatures who's pretty big into the educational stuff is from there, and so that's going to help, I think. So yeah, no, it's a good thing. They're going back out to Washington DC here at the end of the month. I'm not gonna make this trip, but they're gonna go back in, and like last year, they're gonna go back and start talking about IDEA funding again and making sure that special ed funding is where it belongs, and they're very passionate about that, and just keep banging away on it. And you know, the other thing that I think that we really had a lot to do with, at least I think, maybe I'm tooting K-12 horn too much, but when we were out there in Washington DC, our number one priority when we were out there the last time was talking about free lunches and going back to that. And you know, we had a great conversation with Debbie Stabenow on that. And you know, even though Debbie's on her way out the door, she is a fighter for that, and that's been a big passion of hers. And I think that's all but a done deal. I think we're going to be looking at that for next year.
I was wondering about that.
Yeah, and so I mean that. I don't think that there's a better thing that we could do for kids right now. I think that's a great thing.
And it included as well, zeroing out the balance.
Yeah, bad debt.
Yeah.
Bad debt.
So so anyway, it appears, like I said, everything that I've read and I'm seeing appears to be a positive thing for education. So knock on wood, we'll keep our fingers crossed and hopefully we can get this stuff hammered away, which kind of brings me to my very last thing, kind of a little related. This year I am teachers negotiations, custodian and paras are really done except for wage reopener. And so there's a little politicking going on right now because there's some language, MEA wants some legislation, they're looking to, there's a lot of things that got taken away from unions over the course of the last, I don't know, gajillion years, and that they've kind of not had power, and so now they're trying to slow play some things. They want to see certain things go through the legislature, and they're kind of waiting to negotiate with districts until some of that stuff gets through, so we'll be patient. I mean, I'm not in any huge hurry. We've been fair with them all along, and since anyone on this board's been here, the contracts have been very favorable for them. I think that they trust us as a group. I think they know we'll give them what we have and still stay afloat and still stay stable, so.
What length
Well,
are
we were
contracts,
on
a
this-
year or 2 years, or?
Well, I've been going on 1 years with the groups just because things are just so unstable, I think, with, like for example, if I would've went out last year and I was having this conversation with one of the union members earlier, if I would've went out last year, I would've had to, they'd have got what they got last year, but for this year coming up, if it was a second year, I would've had to negotiate on 0 increase, cause I don't know what's gonna happen, And so I always think it takes time, and it's time out of my day, time out of their day, but I think they get a fair deal when you're negotiating with what you know you have. I mean, it doesn't make sense for me to say, all right, well, you could have a 2-year, but you
Who
get
knows?
0.
Yeah.
That's not fair, but so I don't know, we'll see. I know that they probably prefer to do longer than a year, but I don't wanna put us in a position where we're broke because we're playing with money we don't have, so.
And we've always been honest with the groups about, the good news and the bad.
Yep.
And when we got a 10% pay cut from them, the teachers were the first ones, and it was like, and when it comes back, you're first to get yours back, and so there was a good level of trust there.
Yep. And like I said, I think we've been pretty fair with them, and I think they know that. So that'll probably start, I'm hoping March, April, and hopefully it goes quick and smooth and everyone goes home for the summer and we're settled with all our groups, so.
Yeah, good.
We'll see. That's all I got, Phil.
All right, thank you. Any visitors?
No.
Requests? No? Which brings us to our single action item for the night, an overnight trip request for Algonac Robotics. Would anyone like to make a motion?
I'll motion that the Board of Education approve the overnight trip request for the Algonac Robotics team to travel to competition at Kettering University in Flint, Michigan on March 9 through 11, 2023. Transportation and the cost of the overnight stay will be provided by the parents and the team. There will be no cost to the district.
Moved and supported. Any questions, comments? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes.
Motion to adjourn.
Support? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?